The story begins in 1696 under the rule of King William III. England was facing the costs of the 9 Years' War with France, and the government needed money. But instead of a straightforward property tax, the crown introduced a new kind of tax, the window tax. The thinking was simple. Houses with more windows are usually larger and wealthier, so the homeowners could afford to contribute more. The tax was structured in brackets. Houses with more than 10 windows paid a basic rate, while those with more than 20 windows paid a higher rate. The intent was to make wealthier subjects to pay more without taxing poorer households. But what the government didn't foresee was how people would respond to avoid this unusual tax. It didn't take long for people to get creative. Homeowners, landlords, and even some businesses began bricking up their windows to reduce their tax bills. If a home had 12 windows, bricking up 2 meant they could avoid the tax altogether. For wealthier homeowners with larger properties, blocking up a few windows was worth it to avoid higher taxes. The window tax left its mark across England. In city streets, country estates, and townhouses, buildings started to look darker and more austere as more windows were sealed off. The darkened rooms and reduced airflow led to poorer living conditions, with people crowding into rooms that had fewer, smaller windows to escape the tax. But sealing off windows had consequences beyond architecture. Windows are crucial for ventilation and light, helping to reduce the spread of diseases and keep homes dry and comfortable. In urban areas where people already lived close together, the bricked up windows meant more rooms were poorly ventilated, damp, and often dark. The perfect conditions for illnesses like tuberculosis to thrive. The window tax also deepened class divides. Wealthy landowners with large estates had the resources to pay the tax or even absorb the cost by reducing some windows. But poorer households often had no choice but to live with fewer windows in smaller, darker homes. For the elite, the tax might have been a nuisance. For the lower classes, it could mean living in a cramped and unhealthy conditions. And the tax dodging didn't end with bricking up windows. Some people found creative ways to outsmart the law. They built hidden windows, added skylights instead of standard windows, or designed small, non-taxable openings to keep their rooms lit. Some wealthier estates even commissioned custom designs with elaborate loopholes to avoid the tax while keeping homes filled with light. By the early 19th century, public opinion was turning against the window tax. It was seen as a tax on light and air, and the people argued that it unfairly penalized the poor and affected the health. The tax had originally been intended to be a fair way to tax the wealthy, but as it turned out, it had hit poorer households the hardest, making their lives even more difficult. Finally, after more than 150 years, the window tax was repealed in 1851.